Hey, Professor. So this is Alex here, and I'm going to go ahead and be speaking about the backend portion of the ballot setup for this sprint. I'm going to go ahead and touch over I'm going to go ahead and touch over the user story that was created within the two subtasks that I was mainly responsible for. So one of those subtasks was the ballot model for the database, and the other was the ballot controller for the actions that the front end team would be go ahead and sending, and then for that to be able to interact with the database that we have. So with everything being Azure based, we also use the Azure DB, Cosmos DB, in which we have the model here. Some fields at a high level, as you would expect to see on a normal ballot, just like anything, would be like the county, the precinct ID, the state, the ballot ID, who approved it. Since this is an online ballot, this is the last time this ballot was modified. If this ballot was approved, the date it was approved, along with the seat information, the seat name, the candidates, the seat ID for each respective one. The fields that we have here will be coming in sprint 3. So even though these are null right now, you can just ignore these. And I want to go ahead and highlight the source code, just going over that briefly as well. So as I mentioned, the API was split up into two parts, one to get the ballot and one to update the ballot. So for here, the two almost kind of work in tandem the same way. We want to be able to get the values that we have here in the database and be able to pull that to the front end as they need. So what the request would look like is just these three fields. We just need the precinct ID and the election date, which make up the ID for the database, and the role. Now the role here is something that was recently added in towards the role-based permissioning, in terms of if we have an admin trying to use this, a clerk trying to use this, or a voting user trying to use this and send these type of requests. And this number 2 is being pulled from the voter table and the voter fields. So one example here, even though the voter fields you saw in Sprint 1 used to have a lot more, these got cleared out in the addition of adding a role for each one. So like for this example, the ID here, if anybody logged in with this information with the role of, and they had the role of 2, they would be able to go ahead and view these ballots. If not, they would get these role not permission to view. So if they sent a 1, if they sent 99, whatever the other value may be, it would go ahead and give you this role not permissioned value. So that's if in terms of how they would want to get the ballot. If this was a happy path and they are permissioned, if we go ahead and click send here, what it does, it goes ahead and it's able to pull and map those fields from the database model over to the value object model that's being returned on the front end that we have here. And just to highlight what that looks like, this is something that was also recently simplified. So we have almost the same fields that you would see in the model object, with some exceptions in terms of like an is complete, is approved, the status, the message. And these are more things for the front end to be able to go ahead and interact with the database. And I'll show you what that is in a moment. So along with the statuses that I just mentioned, we also do have the status codes that we have here that I added to the constants file. So these are just enums, just in case we want to go ahead and see any of these values. We can go ahead and send them as is. For just any situation, if the ballot's not found, the status is completed, if it's approved, if it's saved, if there's some sort of update error, if there's some sort of permissioning error like we just saw, et cetera, et cetera. The other end of the ballot is for the publish, and that's for if this is a brand new ballot, if this is a ballot in progress, or if anything needs to be updated as well. And what that looks like, it's very kind of similar. How they start off is you go ahead and you try to get the object from the database. If it returns null, in this case, that means the object is brand new, which means that the ballot's brand new. We're going to go ahead and add this as the first time, with some minor validation as well, in terms of like some fields, like if the creator is null, we're not going to go ahead and let you add that to the database. If certain fields aren't certain lengths in the data on the object we go ahead and try to send in, it will go ahead and give you reject messages in terms of there's an error. Otherwise, it's going to go ahead and allow you to add it to the database. Now, if the ballot does exist, we want to be able to go ahead and do some validation on it as well, just making sure, for example, we have all these fields that are here that are complete, that they're filled in. We do have a method if is complete is true and is approved is false. So try to validate the values in the database, making sure they're not incomplete. And if it's approved, what we're going to go do ahead and do is go ahead and save the approver information that the front end team may send over into the database. So like, for example, here, I just marked is complete true and is approved true. I got the status back saying that the ballot was approved successfully. And if I go back here to the ballot table, and I want to go ahead and take a look, I can see the fields filled out here, which we saw were null prior. Last but not least, I want to go ahead and be able to touch upon the test cases. So for here, I do have several cases that were added. Some were, as you may saw previously, were added on July 4th. Some of them I just recently added, and I did shift them over to the ballot setup epic. So I did notice when we go to look at the progress report, it may not track properly in terms of the dates these were added, but that's fine. That's just one of those things I'm just learning with the Zora, and I wish I would have put it in the proper place first. And as I went ahead and I just took screenshots for each and every test case that I went through for each and every step, just to make sure this was tracked correctly. And this was my presentation for the backend ballot setup. I hope you enjoyed.